Whoa, that what?
Sideways, door to door. More smoke than your local WRX meet. Every modern car nerd loves drifting. It's like ballet on wheels. It's a car crash that never ends. And one of the best reasons to get into drifting is that it's one of the cheapest motorsports out there. And in this video, I'm going to show you some of the cheapest ways to get started in your drifting career. So smash that subscribe button down below and let's get into this list with one of the best bargains in sports cars to ever exist. And I am of course talking about the infamous, the notorious, the trumpet sounding Nissan 350Z. The 350Z was designed from the ground up for motorsport with a punchy engine and an athletic chassis. Whether you want it to rip, grip, or slip, the 350Z will suit your needs. And you and I both want cheap drift cars, and honestly, I'm starting off with one of the best here. I think this is pretty much one of the best, most affordable drift car platforms you can get right now today. I mean, pretty much from the factory, you can take this to a drift event. With the right addition, you get a limited slip differential and plenty of horsepower on a rear-wheel drive platform. I mean, it's the perfect setup for a drift car. And if you want to really get sideways, throw an angle kit on there, a couple of horsepower mods, and with the broad and vast amount of aftermarket parts for the 350Z, you are going to be slaying tires at your next drift event. Now in today's market, no car is really cheap anymore, but the 350Z can still be found for relative affordable prices. We were able to find a hardtop manual bright red Z for around $6,000 with, you know, some miles on it, but this is gonna be a drift car. You don't really care about getting a great example of the car to begin with, you're going to destroy it. So get yourself a 350Z, bounce off the red line, slay some tires, and I'll see you at the next drift event. And speaking of red lines, what about a car that requires you to redline it in order to, you know, maintain the engine? Yep, I'm talking about one of the worst, best cars ever, the Mazda RX8. Yes, redlining a rotary engine helps clear out the little bad bits and keep the engine healthy. At least that's what you can tell the cop when you get pulled over. So get this little 1.3 liter rotary engine and rev it to the moon. Send it. Look, the RX-8 is a much maligned sequel to the beautiful FD-RX-7, but thanks to that notorious reputation and its, you know, reliability issues, these can be had for cheap. And when we're talking about drift cars, reliability doesn't really matter. You're gonna be in that engine bay every weekend anyway. What really matters is lightweight, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, and cheap. And the Mazda RX-8 has all of those for you. So grab yourself a spicy little Dorito, get under the hood of this thing, learn how apex seals work, and hit your local track for a drift day. Now, of course, this is a video about cheap cars, not ideal cars. I would never say a Mazda RX-8 is an ideal car. If you want to know more about buying good cars that are reliable and might earn you money, you might want to check out the Ideal Car Strategies up here, where Brad teaches you how to buy and sell your favorite cars and level up with each purchase. Hint, hint. Drifting your car? Not a great way to keep the resale value up. Now, one car that Brad might call an ideal car is the BMW E46, and I would also call it an ideal first drift car. You see, the E46 was one of BMW's greatest 3 Series chassis ever made, and it's so prolific. You might not expect it, but these things are really good drift cars. And I see more E46s than I see really anything else. They're like the new 240SX. Hell, even Formula Drift champion Michael Essa pilots an E46. Is that clear enough about the chassis for you? Again, this BMW has all of the ingredients you need for a drift car. Rear-wheel drive, balanced chassis, manual transmission, and a ton of aftermarket support. The one thing this car has that the rest of the cars on this list don't have? A nice, comfy German interior. You're definitely not going to be as comfortable in a 350Z as you will in an E46. Now, there are about a zillion different models of the E46, but we recommend you get the 330 with the 5-speed for starting your drifting career. You're going to have plenty of power and all the mods you need to build that car from amateur to pro. And of course, this being a BMW, you, it's gonna be a little more expensive than the other cars on our list, coming in around 11 grand for a good example. So if you've got deeper pockets and you want a more comfortable drive to and from the track, the E46 might be the choice for you. And speaking of getting to and from the track, as someone who used to daily his drift car, I understand the benefits of having a reliable drift car. Well, what's more reliable than a freaking Lexus? If you want a rear-wheel drive, manual transmission sports car from the Japanese luxury car maker, you are going to be looking at the SC300 or the SC400. The good news is, you get the legendarily reliable 1UZ, or the legendarily modifiable 2JZ. You get a platform that shares a lot with the Mark IV Supra.
Meaning you can modify and build this almost as much as a Mark IV Supra for just pennies on the dollar.
The bad news is, these are super damn rare in a 5-speed, so you might be actually buying yourself an automatic and converting it to manual, which, if you're not afraid of some cutting and a little bit of work, isn't a bad way to go. And no matter what you do, even if you have somebody do it for you, you're still not spending Mark IV Supra prices. And a secret advantage to the SC is it has a longer wheelbase than the Supra, meaning it kind of drifts a little smoother and easier than the Supra itself. But again, remember that these are going to be hard to find. We were able to dig around and doing a lot of searching. I found one that's already swapped, already 5-speed, 1UZ powered for around 5,000 bucks. But keep in mind, you are definitely buying somebody's project car here. But it doesn't matter because for 5,000 bucks, you have pretty much everything you need right here to go to your favorite drift event the next weekend. Now, the one disadvantage to the Lexus is it's a bit heavy. So you're gonna need a lot of power and a lot of work and a lot of momentum to keep that thing sliding. On the total opposite spectrum of sports car, you have the Mazda Miata.
Of course, you knew we were going to bring up the Mazda Miata in this video. It's in almost every video we make.
And when you're looking for a cheap, affordable, and fun drift car, the Miata is still the answer. And it really doesn't matter which generation you choose. They all offer the same rigid chassis, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, lightweight sports car experience. And while yes, the engines are small and don't put out a lot of horsepower, it doesn't take a lot to break loose some 14-inch wheels. So get a Miata, weld the diff,
put some coilovers on it, put some cheap wheels on it, and you're gonna be sliding at your local drift day in minutes. Just be ready to wipe off all the rubber on the interior with the drop top down.
Now, no matter which generation you choose in the Miata, the prices are all starting to become kind of the same. The older generations are coming up in price, the newer ones are kind of going down. So you can find an NA, an NB, or an NC all around 6,500 bucks today. Now, if you're worried about horsepower, you're of course going to want to, get 4 more cylinders and a lot more fun out of a Ford Mustang. And the de facto Mustang I see at drift events are Ford Fox Body Mustangs. Yes, the Fox Body does not get the love from all the other Mustang owners, but that doesn't matter to you at a drift event. Because for drifting, the Fox Body is actually one of the best. It's lightweight. It's got a big ass V8 under the hood. And most importantly for drifting, it's cheap. These are the important ingredients in making a tire shredding machine. I don't need to tell you that the Ford Mustang has just an extensive aftermarket support. You are gonna be able to build this thing any way you want. And you don't have to wait for parts overnight from Japan. These are coming from the good old USA, so they're gonna be cheap and fast. Honestly, the Fox Body Mustang might be the easiest car to work on this list. And thankfully, with its bad reputation, it's one of the cheapest as well. We were able to find examples with under 100,000 miles on the clock for just around 6 grand. In today's market, that's absurd. Now, I'm gonna circle back around to BMW here for a second because E46 is not the only platform they have that makes for a perfect drift car. If you can find one that still runs and is in good condition, an E36 is actually another great platform for drifting. You see, the E36 is older, but it's smaller and lighter. It's still paired with a fantastic inline-6 engine, and the chassis is practically designed for controlled and balanced drifting. And the E36 has been around for forever. There's just an unlimited amount of aftermarket parts for these things these days. And drifters have caught on. There's even angle kits for them today. And the best news about the E36 is
they're cheaper than the E46.
I was able to find really good examples for under 10 grand like this one.
which would make a great daily driver or drift car.
But if drifting is the only name of the game, look for somebody that's already done the work, and I recommend that for all the cars on this list. It takes a lot to prep a car for drifting.
Let some other sucker do it for you. Like this E36 I found for around $8,000 that has all of the work pretty much already done for you. Buy some tires, take it to the track, and you're having fun within like a week of ownership.
And now it's time for what Brad calls the honorable mention. And I'm going to talk about a car that I saw growing up in drifting that I always thought was the coolest one at the track. And that is the Volvo 740 with the 2.3 liter turbo.
That's right. On a list of cheap, fun, and affordable drift cars, I'm telling you to buy an old Volvo.
But you see, this isn't just any old Volvo. This is a cheap, reliable, balanced chassis with a turbo that'll bang doors with all your friends with Miatas and Mustangs just as good as anything else. And why is it on this list? Well, because it comes in at a fraction of the price. You can get one of these for around 4,000 bucks. Show up to the drift event looking like your grandma and then blow everybody's minds. Now, earlier I told you about the 350Z,
which is a fantastic car with a terrible interior.
So why not consider getting the Infiniti G35, which is basically a 350Z with a little bit of leather added on top.
Drifting is kind of tough on the driver. You get thrashed around in that interior, you might as well have a nicer interior to get thrashed around in. The G35 comes with pretty much everything the 350Z does.
The same VQ engine, the same chassis design, you can bolt the same suspension to it, you can still turbo it, you can still modify the hell out of it. So again, if you're daily driving your drift car like I used to,
get yourself something a little more plush than a 350Z like the G35.
Neither option is going to break the bank, but of course the G35 is going to cost you a little more, coming in around 8,000 bucks. But if you're the kind of discerning buyer that likes to have a nicer car, I think you're going to enjoy the difference between the Nissan and the Infiniti. So there you go, there's my list of cheap, actually affordable drift cars that you can get started with today. Which one of these would you buy? Which one did I miss? Let me know down below, and while you're down there, like the video, don't bother disliking it, you can't see how many dislikes this video has. Thanks YouTube, and consider subscribing to Ideal Cars because we're going to be bringing the frickin' heat in 2022. And no matter what you do, keep living the ideal lifestyle. I am outies.